1995 has not been kind to Michael Andretti. Miami won the pole, dominated. Broken suspension took him out. Australia, another pole. He lost second gear, lost the lead, finally lost control. In Phoenix, his own team suffered a communications breakdown, allowing Robbie Gordon to pass for the win.
Had no idea I was in the lead now.
In Long Beach, over-aggressiveness bit him not once, but twice. Today, Michael's at home, Nazareth, PA, trying to break the 1995 jinx. CBS Sports presents live flag-to-flag coverage of the Bosch Sparkplug Grand Prix. This is an event that used to be held in the autumn, and now they've moved to the springtime, the same date as the old Trenton Championship car race, and they couldn't have a more spectacular, sparkling setting for what should be a great race. Hello everyone, Ken Squire. We're looking forward to a real barn burner here today. Consider that 4 drivers have already broken the old track record. Gordon's at 187 miles an hour for the pole, 2 miles an hour quicker than they've ever gone before. And 23 of the 27 starters are within 1 second of each other as we get down toward time to crank them up. Now, as you look over the season thus far, what a great PPG series this has been. Villeneuve, Tracy, Gordon, Unser in that last race at Long Beach, all winners. But here in Nazareth, there's only one person they're talking about. And earlier today, Mike Joy talked with that one.
Michael Andretti, 3 pole positions. Twice you led the first lap of the race. You've dominated competition, but victory lane has eluded you. What will it take to change that today?
Lead the last lap. Those are the ones we've been having a problem with. I don't know, today is just going to be, you know, keep your nose clean and be able to run in traffic. That's a big key here. Everything changes when you have 26 cars out on a racetrack on a track like this, and you know, the guy that can get his car working behind the other cars is going to be the guy that wins the race.
Here, is it a fine line between charging and keeping your nose clean?
You have to charge. To get by anybody, you have to really take some chances, actually, sometimes, because it's so tight here. So, you know, it's very close quarters, and sometimes you just squeak by and you say, whew, thank God I made it. You know, it's that sort of racetrack.
Well, Ken, the last time that Michael went to the 5th race of the season winless, he won that and the championship besides.
Thanks, Mike. You know, Michael Andretti, his dad had said for years that when he retired, he wanted to be recalled as the most versatile. And indeed, Mario Andretti was, winning in Formula One, winning the Daytona 500, winning at Indy. And he's going to add another dimension today. We're really honored to have Mario alongside here on what is home base for the Andretti family. And when you think about Nazareth, Pennsylvania, you think about the late 60s, and you running that 1 1/8 dirt in those old Champ cars, that big right, had to have arms like Schwarzenegger to get through. Some different today than what we saw back there in 1969 when you were the champ here.
Well, it's different, all right, and a lot of things have changed indeed, but the one thing that has remained the same is pretty much the challenge, the particular challenge to drive this course, because being a tri-oval with really one long straightaway and having an elevation of some 30 feet, you know, it requires not only that particular concentration factor because you're turning most of the time, but it's also considerably tougher physically for the driver. So, as I said, this is it's quite a place here.
Almost like an old Langhorne. You're turning all the time, about 70% of the time. Now, as to the complexity of this season, let's turn to our colleague, David Hobbs.
Ken, it's been an absolutely wonderfully complex and competitive season so far this year. 4 races, 4 different winners. And of the 12 drivers who are still on the podium, only 2, Pruitt and Rahal, have repeated. We've got a whole bunch of young drivers out there. None of these races have been run from the pole. In fact, all these races have been won from 4th on the grid or worse, which is good news for the lad this afternoon. He's 5th on the grid. And one way or another, this has been one of the best ever PPG years. Now, there are a lot of young, new faces out there, very young and very fast, but they shouldn't be too complacent this afternoon, because riding amongst them on the outside of row 2 is the oldest driver here this afternoon, Emerson Fittipaldi. I think we're in for an absolutely wonderful afternoon's racing here from Nazareth.
And one of the youngest and certainly the fastest is standing by where Dick Berggren is right now on pit road.
Ken, 26-year-old Robbie Gordon absolutely obliterated the track record on the way to winning this pole. and he has won the only oval track race in the series so far this year. That makes him a fan favorite. But there's trouble. He's broken 2 wheel bearings in practice. Yesterday it was a transmission. This morning the engine dumped much of its water. And the question is, can this car hold up long enough for this young man to win his second oval track race?
The command has just been given to fire the engines. 27 drivers getting ready for 200 miles of racing. CBS is thrilled to be back with PPG Series Indianapolis car racing. Stay with us for our flag-to-flag coverage on this day when the flag flies at half-mast in memory of Oklahoma City here at Nazareth.
CBS Sports coverage of the Bosch Spark Plugs Grand Prix is sponsored by Bosch Platinum, the ultimate spark plug. Valvoline, the #1 choice of America's top mechanics. And by Firestone, America's tire since 1900.
Preliminary laps. You're riding with Ray Hall as we get ready to take a look at the starting grid. There's Robbie Gordon on the pole at 187.4. Vassar, best qualifying ever for him. He'll start in second. Going to row 2 for today. Villeneuve looking for win number 3 of his brilliant young career. And the 2-time F1 world champion Emerson Fittipaldi is right alongside. Going to row 3, and there you have Michael Andretti trying to repeat here on this track. And with him comes Ribeiro. Into row 4 for today. There's Bobby Rahal. 10 oval wins for him. He's looking for a good finish today. And Raul Boesel. Going to row 5. Fernandez is there. And Scott Pruitt. Pat Patrick car. In row 6 is Brian Herta and Gugelmin. For row 7, you have Sweden's Johansson. And from Chile, Salazar. In row 8, Paul Tracy and Teo Fabi. For row 9, there's Christian Fittipaldi and Gilles Di Ferran. In row 10, it's Al Unser Jr. way back, but he was way back last year and came to second from 18th in the first 40 laps. Buddy Lazier alongside. For row 11, there's Eddie Cheever in Foyt's car and Danny Sullivan. Sullivan, a former winner here. Sam Pedri in row 12 with Dean Hall. Row 13 is Carlos Guerrero and Marco Greco. And then starting out back, Matsushita in that 27th starting position. 200 miles, 200 laps. So there you see the race record by Nigel Mansell. Last year's winner, Paul Tracy. And you see the window for fuel stops in this one.
Well, it looks like about 70 laps, and one thing to watch at the start here, it's quite a very cold day today, and when you're accelerating here, you're turning, so it could be very interesting, actually. It could be very exciting, but
when it's this cool,
they all know about it. Yes,
getting those tires heated up. Away and racing, dusting off that first turn. This is the track they talk about with the revolving pivot points on those corners. Wherever you think the axis is, he's to move just in front of you forever. Robbie Gordon jumps out in front. Great move.
Oh, Michael Andretti there. Jimmy Vassar touching wheels as he went through turn 3.
The last 2 years, the leader of this first lap has gone on to win the race. We'll see. Andretti making a brilliant move on the inside. Turn 2 is where you can run too wide. Certainly not turn 1. 35-foot transition between 2 and 3. Back to the line they come another time. Here's Vassar back to third spot. Right behind him, Villeneuve in those blue and white colors.
I think you're going to see the field pretty much settling down now for the next few laps until they start lapping, which is the nature of this course. And of course, I think lapping cars and being able to run in traffic like that is going to make all the difference as far as being able to make competitive passes.
Villeneuve running in fourth. Right behind him comes Fittipaldi.
Fittipaldi, Villeneuve, and Vassar, they're running in very, very close company.
And behind Fittipaldi is that Honda. Ribeiro there. They had a great qualifying run, the best they've ever done on an oval. There's Ribeiro. Seemed like all the test work on that car done by Ray Hall, then he has moved on, and now that car is coming to life.
Well, I think that the engine has come a long way as far as having the power that's up to par with the Fords and the Mercedes.
Well, there's no doubt about it that when you look at the work that Honda did in Formula One, that there's no way that the company wasn't eventually going to have a successful engine in IndyCar racing. And this, of course, is such a showcase for engines these days with Ford, Mercedes, and, of course, Honda. And here we are on board with Paul Tracy.
And what a move he's moved. From 15th up to 7th, David.
Boy, this guy is really getting on with it. And as Mario said, it's very cool out there, and these guys all had a tremendous opening lap there on really stone-cold tires. This is the scene here from Bobby Rahall's car, the front-mounted camera. Give you a real idea of just how fast these guys are going. Down this back straight, 35-foot drop, into turn 3, long, long corner. What I call a real neck stretcher, that one.
And I think the fact that, as we said, that it is cool, I think you're able to, you're not going to worry about the tires going off on you so quickly, and you can press pretty hard, and that's what we're going to see. I think the race pace is going to be very, very quick, you know, actually throughout the stint.
Yeah, and of course these engines just loving that cool temperature, I suppose, cranking out some serious horsepower.
Ray Hall in 8th. Tracy just in front. Lap 9, and you can really get the sense of downhill right there.
That's right.
Rahal, of course, being followed by Raul Boesel, and of course these two guys are teammates, both driving for Rahal Hogan Racing Team. So Hogan himself, Carl Hogan, who I used to drive for, and Bobby Rahal being co-owners of those two cars.
Pruitt back in 10th, rounds out the top 10. Gucciolini just outside in 11th. Bobby in 12th.
Boesel going around his teammate.
That right.
I don't know about job security there.
No. Good point. Rahal, as we speak, on the phone back to the pits, and Carl Hogan saying, Carl, get him out of there. But Rahal now coming under pressure again.
You know, it's amazing that sometimes after 7 or 8, even 10 laps, you're beginning to feel a balance change, and the cars that are going to go loose are going to start going loose just about now, believe it or not.
And in 10 laps, they're ready to do some lapping out there, getting around Greco too. And that's the story of this mile track. You're always in traffic here. You got 3 of them. Look at that move.
That's the story indeed.
Veron down to the inside, trying to get around Greco.
And of course, a tremendous amount of responsibility is put on everybody here, the lead drivers and, of course, the drivers who they're lapping. It's very difficult for them as well. They're still lapping at about 180 mile an hour, and they can't just watch the mirror all the time. On the other hand, of course, they've got to let the leaders through.
Yes, because here you go, as you exit turn 3, go into turn 1, you go from apex to apex, and then the car is being lapped. It has to be aware to leave at least one car with for the faster car.
Oh, absolutely, and because it's very difficult for all of them.
Unser well back in the pack, trying to move under Salazar. As you look further back in the field, he's back in 19th position, challenging for 18th. And not coming up as quickly as he did a year ago when he made that incredible run from 18th to 2nd in the first 40 laps. That's Salazar. Alacero just in front of him, using a little higher line as he sweeps around that hard turn number 3, back to 1.
But you're going to see now that actually the faster cars are going to be forced to the outside, and that in itself is going to work. The groove is going to make it wider and wider. You'll see most of the outside passing going on in turn 2, obviously.
Back with the leaders. And look at Andretti closing in on Gordon.
Both of these cars, of course, have got the Ford engines, although Michael's car is the latest Stage 2 engine. Robbie Gordon has yet to use that.
Well, this is going to be very interesting to see, actually, as to just how things develop here, because looking at the speed that Gordon qualified, you thought maybe he could just run away with the field, but you must remember that maybe his condition or his setup could be quite neutral, and it could be one that might go loose. So it's going to be interesting to see how it develops here, because Mike seems to be staying quite close to him. So
you could tell us about Mike's car here, the sort of turbulence he's going to be in there from behind Gordon doing 187-mile-an-hour laps. I mean, it must be a bit of a problem here.
Well, yes, but the fact that you're able to stay close, the car that's in front of you is going to tell you that if you get by him, then you're probably going to pull away.
You're going to be real good shape then. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Robbie Gordon from his third career